All right, guys, back again this Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. The 2-1 Jaguars will be flying out to Philadelphia to play Doug Peterson's former team, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are coming into this game with a record of 3-0. So let's go ahead and discuss. So huge opportunity this weekend for the Jaguars to potentially knock off the only undefeated team left in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're having a tremendous year, and this was a game that a lot of us were looking at before the season, and it's not because of Jalen Hurts versus Trevor Lawrence. None of that. It's because Doug Peterson's coming back to the city where he won a Super Bowl. Doug Peterson's going back to a stadium that has a statue of him right outside the stadium. He actually said that he's never seen the statue, so I wonder if he takes a little bit of a detour to kind of take a look at. I know I would. If I had a statue anywhere, I'd be wanting to see it in person. But yeah, Doug Peterson returning home, so it'll be interesting because Philadelphia fans boo everybody. They boo Santa Claus. I think they booed Kobe Bryant one time too, but. Hey, the Doug Peterson won them their very first Lombardi trophy. I don't care who it is for the Jaguars. I mean, if anybody wins us a Lombardi trophy, I am cheering for them for the rest of my life. But Doug Peterson is coming back home after he was actually fired from the Eagles a couple years ago. He was fired because it was just a power struggle up in the front office. The Eagles, like, he wanted to hire his own guys. I think he really wanted Press Taylor to be their offensive coordinator. They were trying to micromanage this situation, kind of make him to pick another offensive coordinator. And if you're a head coach in the league, you want to be able to pick your guys. So, he was kind of pigeonholed in that matter. And the owner wound up going with Howie Roseman to kind of win that little struggle. But hey, what the Eagles want to throw away, the Jaguars will treasure, because Doug Peterson has been exactly what the Jaguars have needed for our resurgent Jaguars. The Jaguars are 2-1, coming off of a couple of dominating games. And, you look at the Jaguars, and they start off with a pretty tough schedule. The Washington Commanders weren't a very tough team, but it was the Jaguars' first chance to really get after it. And then you had the Indianapolis Colts, who you destroyed. And then you had the Chargers, who you also beat. I mean, and the Colts and Chargers are both really good teams. And then now you're going up against, the team that everyone has number one in the power rankings with the Philadelphia Eagles. So, this is Jaguars start off with a really tough schedule, and we're looking at this, man. We're 2-1 right now. 2-1 after starting the two out of their first three games on the road. 3 out of your first 4 games after this one will be on the road. So it's a tough one. Now, when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, why are they so successful? One reason is because of Jalen Hurts. And I do apologize for this, guys, because usually I bring, somebody from the opposing team on to preview this with me, but this week was a weird week with me coming home from a bachelor trip on Monday and then hearing a hurricane was coming. So I had, my dad staying at the house this week, and it was just a crazy week. Not a good week for videos, but, we're back at it. So I do apologize. So I'm going to pretend that I am Mr. Eagles fan, and I'm going to be previewing this stuff. So yeah, a big catalyst for the success has been Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts was a guy that, a lot of people looked at and said, okay, he's just a placeholder. At some point the Eagles, they're not going to be very good. They're going to have a lot of draft picks. They're going to be able to move up in the draft and then get their guy. But Jalen Hurts loves the game of football. He is a really hard worker. He's drafted in the second round, and he really put in a lot of work this offseason. And now he looks like really a completely changed quarterback. 67.3% completion percentage so far for the year, 916 yards passing, 4 touchdowns versus 1 interception, and he's just as impressive on the ground, putting up 167 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. He's a really big dude, really hard to bring down. They're also led in the running game by Miles Sanders, who has 222 rushing yards on the year, as well as 1 touchdown. But their biggest thing is the aerial attack. They have some really good weapons in the passing game, and it's led by A.J. Brown, who we know very well. We probably know A.J. Brown better than Eagles fans, as he was in the AFC South. But I think after the Jaguars gave Kirk their contract and exploded the wide receiver market, that's when the Titans could not afford A.J. Brown, trade him over to the Eagles, and now they're trying to compensate with Treylon Burks. But A.J. Brown's been killing it this year. 20 receptions for 309 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith is another guy who's a first-round pick from last year. Much different receiver, much more slight. He has 15 receptions for 249 yards and one touchdown. Put up a monster week last week. And they also have Dallas Goedert in the middle, big tight end. They're a team that just always has tight ends, right? They're like the Steelers and, whoever else. Even the Giants seem to have them. Like, it's always some of these teams, they always have tight ends. The Eagles are one of those teams. Dallas Goedert having a good year, 11 receptions, 168 yards, and one touchdown. So, this offense has just been absolutely killing it this year. Their point differential is amazing. And also their defense. I mean, the Jaguars kind of had a little bit of gift. It looks like their slot cornerback, Avonte Maddox, is out. So that's where hopefully Christian Kirk will really feast this game. Some other real impact players on the defense. They still have Fletcher Cox in there. He has 3 sacks on the year and 1 forced fumble. He's a 31-year-old guy, but he's still very, very active and a very contributing player toward their team. TJ Edwards leading the team with 21 tackles. And they also have some more big-name guys, Hassan Reddick, former Gator Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So they have a bunch of playmakers on their defense, much like the Jaguars do. Now, how did the Jaguars beat the Eagles? They're 3-0. They have not showed much weakness on their team. A big way to do it is probably through the running game. The Eagles are allowing 5.4 yards per carry against opposing running backs, which is actually the worst in the NFL. This is something that the Jaguars can exploit. The Jaguars have, that hasn't been talked about now, but they have probably one of the better two-headed running back duos in the NFL. James Robinson, his whole entire life will be underrated. And also ETN, everyone hates ETN right now because of fantasy. But it's really a really good two-headed running back duo. It seems like Robinson in the first half just grounds and pounds them, and then the second half it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we have ETN, we have speed. He can go in there and get some rushing yards in a rushing game. So really, the Jaguars, that'll be a big one. And also, might be a bit of a weather advantage for the Jaguars. It's supposed to be rainy and also a little bit windy too. I think that does benefit the Jaguars because the Jaguars do things really well through the running game. They do things really good throwing from throwing crossing routes. They're not the biggest downfield throwing team. While on the other hand, the Eagles are. The Eagles do like to throw the ball downfield. So, that's a big thing. And it's also important that the Jaguars need to harass Jalen Hurts. The Jaguars have been doing a really good job of getting after the quarterback. And look, the way the Eagles beat us is, look, our safeties can be somewhat suspect at times. The Eagles throw the ball deep a lot, and they have the guys that can go out there and get under it. But in order to do that, you have to have the time in the pocket. So the Jaguars need to go back there and get pressure and not only get on Jalen Hurts, but also be able to bring him down. Because when you look at the past few quarterbacks that the Jaguars have played, they played Carson Wentz, who he's not like the most mobile guy, but he's a big guy and he's really tough to bring down. And there were a few times where the Jaguars had him, but he snuck out of it, and whether he ran it or threw it, whatever, they let him slip out of their hands. Matt Ryan, statue. Once you got a hand on him, he fell. Justin Herbert was dealing with his rib thing, so he really wasn't looking to run the ball. So this is a chance to go against, probably one of the top 5 rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. So once you get back there, you have to find a way to bring him down. And, I imagine they're going to do a little bit of spying with the linebackers. And, it's going to be – that's a big thing about this game is being able to handle – to, be able to collapse the pocket on Jalen Hurts, because if you give him holes, he's going to be able to run through it and he's going to be able to pick up yards. And nothing's more frustrating than a running quarterback that just runs all over you. So that's a big one. Now, when you look at the Jaguars, really the different point spreads the last few games, the Jaguars were underdogs to the Colts by 3 points. They wound up winning 24-0. They were 6.5-point underdogs against the Chargers, wound up winning by 4 touchdowns. And now, once again, the Jaguars are 6.5-point underdogs. So, like I was saying earlier, we went against a tough schedule. We've been shattering these point spreads so far. Now, the Jaguars can 100% win this game. 100% win this game. Even though, all the consensus, much like last week, everybody is picking the Eagles to win this one. The Jaguars absolutely had the chance to win this one. Now the Eagles, it's interesting, man. The last two games, the Eagles have scored 0 points in the second half. They've last two games they scored all their points in the first half, which was kind of crazy to see. So they're a team that really gets up on the opponents, and then they're able to kind of sit on the lead, which is pretty crazy how they're not putting up points. I haven't been watching the Eagles games, so it might be a situation kind of like the Jaguars when they played the Colts. The Jaguars scored 7 points in the second half against the Colts. Not that they couldn't score more, but it was that, look, we're up 17-0. Just bleed the clock, move the chains. We're not going to worry about, putting on a show out here. So that's one. And yeah, the games are similar to the Jags where they just had blowouts. Now, I think, in my opinion, the perfect game for the Jaguars is to win by a small margin. Because look, what have the Jaguars proved? The Jaguars can prove that we can blow out good teams. You blew out the Colts. You blew out the Chargers. You can win blowout games. You can also win on the road. The Jaguars finally, since 2019, won their first road game, and it happened very far away from home, all the way on the West Coast against LA. So the Jaguars can win away games, but the Jaguars have not proved yet that they can win a close game, and quite frankly, neither are the Eagles. The Jaguars, they had their opportunity against the Commanders. They could have easily won that game on offense and defense. Either unit needed to step up, and neither one did, so we lost a close game in enemy territory, and that's why the Jaguars have one loss on the year. But the Jaguars, we need to figure out if the game's close. Like my most ideal situation is if the Jaguars are down by 4 points with 3 minutes left. The Eagles score, we get the ball to 25. We have 3 minutes left, like 2 timeouts. Need to score a touchdown. If we could see like Trevor Lawrence move the ball downfield and get a game-winning touchdown drive, that would be perfect for me. Then it's like, oh my gosh, we can not only win close games, but we can have our quarterback come from behind and win a game. That would be crazy to me because I really, like, when was the last time that happened? I top of my head, I can't remember the last time the Jaguars quarterback got the ball with limited time remaining, drove down the field for a touchdown. It legit might have been like over 10 years ago, which is pretty sad. But yeah, that's a big thing that I'm kind of looking for the Jaguars is now if the Jaguars want to go out here and win 31-7, I'm not going to stop them. Look, go out there, don't make it stressful for me in the fourth quarter. I would love to give them the beats by Dre, but it doesn't always happen this game that way. Now, one thing that it feels like a lot of times, like, we go into games, like, really in the past season, it's a must-win. We can't lose this one. This one actually is not a must-win. And I'd probably be saying that differently if last week the Jaguars lose to the Chargers, because it's like, man, we're 1-2. You don't want to start the season like 1-3 in the first quarter. That's not good. But really with this one, if the Jaguars lose this one to a really, really good Eagles team, you're 2-2. But when you look at the road ahead, you have the Texans, Colts, Giants, Broncos, Raiders. Literally none of those teams scare me. The Jaguars can easily lose any of those games. I'm not saying that they're going to go 5-0 down the stretch, but I'm just saying, like, these are all extremely winnable games. So if you lose to the Eagles, you are going in at 2-2, and then I think you're sitting pretty good. I think if a lot of us were asked, hey, you're going to go 2-2, one of your victories against the Colts, so you're 1-0 in the AFC South, would you take that? I think a lot of us would say probably yeah. So, when you look down the stretch, the schedule does look pretty favorable for the Jaguars. So, it's not a must-win, even though, man, imagine going 3-1. Imagine beating the Eagles. Look, the Jaguars, I said it last week, the Jaguars put the NFL on notice with the Chargers. With that Chargers victory, they put the NFL on notice big time. Now, because a lot of people are saying, oh, we're getting disrespected. I don't really feel like we're getting disrespected. I feel like finally people are paying attention to us. After the Colts game, it felt like a little bit disrespect, but we put together back-to-back games, beat the Chargers, and then now people are saying, wow, like Jacksonville is probably the best team in the AFC South. Trevor Lawrence is doing great things. Doug Peterson is doing great things with the team. Like, this is probably the best team in the AFC South. However, on the other hand, everybody's picking us to lose against the Eagles, and rightfully so. The Eagles are a really good team. They're only on the undefeated team left, but if the Jaguars can somehow beat the Eagles, that's really putting us in a conversation for, like, Could this be a top 5 team in the NFL? Could this be a top 3 team in the NFL? Could the Jaguars be a favorite to win the AFC? The AFC looks really suspect right now. I don't look at the AFC and see like all that many juggernauts at the top of my head. I mean, I watched the Bengals-Dolphins game last night, and I wasn't really impressed with them. I'm watching the Broncos. Ugh, the Broncos look awful. I mean, the Chiefs just lost to the Colts. The Jaguars destroyed the Colts. I don't know. The AFC is all up in the air right now. I think we kind of overrated it a little bit before. I know the Browns are 2-1. I don't know, man. I don't know. A lot of the teams aren't scaring me right now. I'm not seeing this huge gap between like where the Jaguars, everyone perceive the Jaguars where they are versus like the next level team. So go out here, Jaguars. Put the NFL on notice. Beat the Eagles. And then we'll be celebrating, man, when the Jaguars win. Life is just so much better, isn't it? I'm looking all through the power rankings, seeing where people are putting us. Like, I've never heard of Nick Wright before this season, but he loves the Jaguars. I don't know, man. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I will be streaming this game again. I know I missed you guys last week. I really did. But we're going to be back. We're going to be in the cave, in the Jag Cave, watching these Jaguars play. It's going to be a blast, I'll tell you that much. And hopefully the Jaguars can come away with that dub, and then we can celebrate all the way down the season. But thank you so much for watching. Drop a like on your way out, and go Jags.
Okay, Jacksonville Jaguars, too much for your crew to handle. Keep it lit, and this is the #1 YouTube channel by UCF Jaguar. Yeah, we about to blast off. If you've been a fan, then this is the dopest platform. Yeah, never hold back. Gotta represent for the teal and black.